right, Lara. Lara, where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in rural Illinois.
What town?
Well,
I'm from Chicago.
oh, you're from Chicago? I'm from significantly further south than Chicago. Anywhere from like Decatur to southern Illinois.
Got it.
Lived in a few different parts of the state.
How would you describe your childhood?
Very normal.
You had mom and dad?
Mom and dad, parents are still married. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked. Very traditional family. Went to church every Sunday. Just very normal.
No craziness?
No craziness. Very loving family. We took family trips every year. I have...
what the hell? You're supposed to have some crazy thing happen in your
I
childhood that makes you
That's what
a pervert.
You would think, right? That's the misconception, I think. But
is it a misconception?
I do think it's a misconception. I hear that a lot. In my case, and in the case of a lot of people in this lifestyle, I know it's just not the situation. I
think it's almost as random as like some people are really good at math and other people are just not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like some people are really into darker things, whether in terms of the movies they like or their sexual interests or whatever, or their partner interests, and other people are just like more white bread.
That's so true. Yeah, I think we just are who we are. We just like what we like. It is what it is, but
people like to judge and they like to say, "Oh, you're fucked up."
Yeah, when you come across anybody who's different than maybe the norm or the societal norm, anybody who wants to do things a little bit more unconventionally, I don't know.
All I can say as an outsider, because I'm not from the fetish world at all, but I've interviewed so many people now. And they all seem, they all seem to be having a great time. Mm-hmm. You can tell when somebody's having a really great time with their sexual part of their life. They go through life a little spring in their step, a little more smile, a little easier to smile.
Absolutely. I think maybe one common denominator is when we've reached this point where we're this free with expressing ourselves in this sexuality, in this lifestyle. You've gone through this journey of just like letting go. You've let go of the fear of judgment. You let go of all of those things. And it is like so freeing to do that.
I interviewed a bunch of people at the nudist colonies or resorts in Florida. And they have a similar kind of, it's kind of, maybe it's similar, but they're not necessarily into fetishes. They just like being naked.
Yeah.
They're playing volleyball naked. They're eating lunch naked. They're doing everything naked all the time.
Yeah.
And they have this joy for life that you just don't see outside of that community.
Yeah, you've just let go of all of those things that weigh us down. Like, I'm afraid what people are going to think, or, afraid people are going to judge me. And people will. But you know what? It doesn't matter what you choose to do. They're going to judge you. So just do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's really, I think that's the thing that's become most valuable to me out of my journey in this lifestyle.
How did you first discover that this was something you were interested
in? For me, I've always been interested in this, always, even before I knew what it was. My first sexual thoughts and feelings were always about submission and kink and weird things, And then, when I discovered that there's this whole world of BDSM, I was like, immediately, I knew that's me. That's where I belong. And
so you describe yourself as a submissive.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about that.
I love to be in a power exchange dynamic. Total power exchange. TPE is the common abbreviation for that in the world. But I just love to have a dom in my life who just gives me guidance and direction, and he protects me and he helps me with things that I can't help myself with. I'm a very anxious person. I've always had anxiety, but when when I'm in like a DS scenario or a scene, or I just have maybe when I'm in a relationship with a dom, we will set up certain like rituals, for example. And those things just calm me down so much. I can't explain it, but it just goes from living my life in this state of heightened anxiety to instantly everything quiets down, my brain quiets down, and I just feel so like, I don't know, in the right place.
So you're attracted to a man who is a little more dominant and will tell you what to do and how to do it, or?
I am, and I've always been that way. And early in life, before I was like ready to be who I really am, ready to like express to partners that I had these desires, I always find myself attracted to these really alpha male, domineering types. And those are not always good guys to be with. And I have found myself in abusive situations in my young days, until I, wisened up and learned a little bit more about standing up for myself. And now I feel like in a DS relationship, I mean, I am in control. I'm giving you my submission. You don't get to take it from me.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand this. They think, oh, it's terrible. You're being treated badly. It's you're actually in control as a sub.
That's exactly it. In my vanilla life, I'm a strong person. I've raised my kid all by myself, no help from anybody. I've had a great career. I've been in leadership positions. I'm not a weak person. I'm not a pushover by any means. I choose who I give my submission to. And then from there, we choose all of the places where I'm willing to submit, all of the things I'm willing to submit to. And we have these really in-depth conversations about those kinds of things, what I'm willing to give to him, what I'm not comfortable with. And, if he's not respecting that,
communication is a huge part of all this.
Communication is everything. And I think that's also one of my big appeals to this. I think growing up for me, I had a great childhood, great family. I have no complaints. But I also had a family where it was like, well, we don't talk about sex and we don't talk about our bodies. And that's, that's shameful. We don't do that. What
was your father like?
My dad's awesome. And I still have a great relationship with him.
But he's not particularly dominant or?
No. My parents are very normal people. They're very like your typical Midwestern conservative, church-going, loving.
Maybe it's just like we said earlier, just your DNA is different than somebody who's vanilla.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe it took a long time to come to that because you go through a period. I think a lot of people who do this maybe go through a time where we're like, what's wrong with me? Am I weird? Were
you vanilla at one point?
I don't think I've ever felt vanilla on the inside. But of course, nobody in my life for a very long time would ever guess that I was into all this stuff. So people would definitely assume I was vanilla.
But a lot of, I would assume a lot of men could probably be lacking imagination.
Yeah.
They just want to get what they want.
They do. And as a submissive, you have to be able to advocate for yourself. You have to be able to stand up for yourself and be strong on that because a lot of men do. A lot of like, oh, I can be a dom. I'm just going to come in and tell you what to do. Now take off your pants or whatever. And no, that's not how it is.
Trust is a huge part of it.
Trust is everything. Yeah, you don't just go into a DS. You don't just meet a dom and then the very next day you're, giving into his every will. It's not like that. It takes a long time. If you're serious, if you want to have a real relationship in the lifestyle, you have to take your time with it. Build trust, get to know each other, make sure that he knows. Like I have to express, okay, these are all the things that make me anxious. So let's make sure we avoid that, and he'll help me find ways to work around that, and helps me. A good dom cares about my physical well-being and my mental health just as much, and is always conscious of that. It's a big responsibility for him.
But in the bedroom, maybe he understands what you appreciate and knows how to play that role.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So BDSM for me, I would say my BDSM does not always have to include sex, but I prefer my sex always includes BDSM. That's how I feel about that.
And is it difficult finding partners that fill that role?
Yes, it can be. Yeah, it can be. I've had incredible partners. I have met some of the best people in the world in this lifestyle. People who are just so like loving and caring and open-minded, and good doms. That's what they are. They're loving and caring. They're not monsters. They're not here to just seize control of everything and boss you around like you're some little worthless slave and piece of property. And for some people, that's the fantasy. Even for me, sometimes that's the sexual fantasy part of it. But in the big picture of things, a dom has to take care of his submissive. He has to make sure I'm good in every single way.
And he gets off on doing that.
And he does.
Being a caregiver.
Exactly.
Caretaker.
Yeah, and good doms, they are caretakers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me how we're just wired the way we're wired.
We are.
And some people like to be submissive and some people like to be dominant and some people, it's like being gay or being...
That's exactly it.
It's almost like being like tall or having blue eyes or whatever. You just, that's the way I was born.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I can't explain it any other way. People think there's something that makes you be this way. I don't think there is. I think it's just how...
Well, I'm sure there are some cases where it is.
That's probably true. I'm sure there are.
And I'll bet you there are also cases where you having high anxiety and having a tendency to be submissive will put you in a position where you end up getting taken advantage of. So then you ended up in a situation that looked like that would have caused it. But I think the traits that you had kind of led you into a situation where you could have been dominated maybe when you weren't ready, weren't looking for it.
Yeah, that's very true. It's been a process of growth. It's mentally and emotionally and figuring myself out and becoming stronger in those ways. I don't want to be in a position where I 100% rely on my dom to be in control of my mental health. I have to be in control of that. But I can lean on him when I need to. And he can tell me like, okay, it's time, to go take a nap or go seek therapy or whatever it is, if I have something major in my life that's bothering me. But I feel like I have, in my experiences, I've come across people who've really cared about my mental health and really helped me just be strong about that on my own.
Yeah, when you find the right partner, it's a magical thing. It
really is. Yeah, and somebody who gets you, especially when you're wired in a way that's not the norm, I guess.
How do you find potential partners? Through the FetLife community thing?
Mainly, yeah. Mainly FetLife. One I found on Hinge, oddly enough. It wasn't like an explicitly like dom seeking sub, but I think sometimes when we find each other in the wild, you just kind of know the energy is just there. And like my first really significant relationship in the lifestyle, we actually worked for the same company. Lived in different states, met on a company trip, and it just kind of developed from there. But yeah, FetLife is awesome. There's so many good people there. The community here, the kink community here is awesome. I have met amazing people.
And you haven't had bad experiences?
I have had bad experiences. I think like my first relationship, my first real DS relationship, and we got into it really deep. We had protocols and rituals and rules, and we had this really like intimate, connected thing happening. And he was like a daddy dom type. And he just, made me feel so like taken care of. And fast forward into the future, we were together for a very long time, and fast forward into the future, and I come to find out that he's just has this whole secret life that I knew nothing about. And I just felt like, okay, I gave this man my entire vulnerability. I mean, like I've never done before. And to him, it was just a game. It wasn't real. And that shattered me. That was really hard to get over. And I think sometimes being in those like DS dynamics, when you have those kinds of like protective like rituals and protocols and those little things, I don't know if I can say it makes it harder to get over, but maybe in my case it did. It was really hard to get over that.
It's hard to trust again.
It was really hard to trust again. A while after him, my most recent relationship, I was with somebody, he is a different kind of person. He's a vampire. He has permanent fangs. Really? He owns a dungeon. His whole entire house is a dungeon filled with equipment. Looking at him, most people will probably be afraid of him. He's not your typical guy walking down the street. But that relationship, I feel like, really healed me. Because he was like a best friend. He was so good to me and so there for me. And he was not willing to take on dominant responsibilities that he couldn't handle, for example. So like when you set up a protocol with your submissive, you set up a ritual or something like that. For an example, every single morning I would have to text and say, good morning, I'm up, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And he would respond with, do this or do that. But if I didn't get that, if one day or a couple days he missed that and didn't acknowledge it, that can be really hard on me or a submissive emotionally. You feel like, oh, he doesn't care anymore. He's forgetting about me, or he's mad at me, or whatever it may be. Those little things become like really important.
What would you recommend for somebody who's looking to explore a little bit with what you've found?
Do it. Definitely do it. Get out there into the community. On FetLife, there are so many groups and events. Get out there and go to them. It's so scary. I know it is so scary, especially like as a single female. I think it's particularly scary to want to dip your toes in to that world. But start off with like the munches or something, or a class or something like that, something more low key. And you'll find that the people in this community, they're not going to like ravage you when you walk in the door. You are so much safer there than you are at your typical vanilla bar, in my opinion. In my experiences over the years, going to the bar, maybe I want to dress, wear a sexy dress and go to the bar. Men are dogs there. They are. And they want to grope you or hit on you, blah, 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 nonstop. But if I go to a kink event or a dungeon or something like that, I feel so respected. I feel safe and respected, and everybody there is with that mentality. Respect and consent and safety is so top of mind for people in this community. I've never gone to a place like that and felt unsafe or like somebody was going to do something to me. Because I think we live by that. We live by consent and respect.
In your life outside of your romantic life, would anyone ever know that you were a submissive?
Probably more so now. I feel like I've really come in to letting go of being worried about what anybody might think over the past maybe 5 years. I do like an OnlyFans and I do stuff like that now.
You do?
I do, yeah. And I love it. It's so much fun. Like, I really love meeting people and meeting people in this community. And I love answering questions, people who are like curious about the lifestyle and just talking to them. It's like, we're not all super weird. Maybe we are, but we're not dangerous. I don't know.
I don't get the feeling from the people I've met that you guys are super weird.
I don't think we are.
You almost come off as healthier than...
I agree. I would agree with that in a lot of cases. I know a lot of like vanilla friends and in vanilla marriages, and it's like they don't talk to their partner about what they want sexually. And it's like, what? And I get being like that because I've been like that. I've been in that place in the past, but I've come to a place now where I've been able to let that go.
Are you happier now?
So much happier. It's like, this is who I am. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And if people don't like that, well, then they're not my people. That's okay. It just feels so freeing and liberating to just finally like, you know what, I'm no longer going to give any fucks about what they think. That
comes with age sometimes too, but you're still young.
Agreed. I'm 40.
You're 40.
I'm 40. It does come with age and experience, and I guess my experiences have led me to this point. But I'm just feel so much better today than I ever have in my whole life.
So when you say submissive, what you don't need to give me too many details, but what kind of stuff goes on? Like, are you tied up? Are you?
Oh, I love all of it. I love bondage. I love rope, shibari. I love the feeling of being. I love the aesthetic of it for one, and I love the feeling of being like in this place where I'm completely out of control.
Explain what shibari is. It's like an artistic rope.
Yeah, shibari is a form of bondage where rope is used. So, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. Some people do suspension. I like predicament bondage. I think is really fun too. That's where you're like maybe tied up in a way. Like for example, once I had, my hands are back here. I've got one rope here and I'm standing on one leg and I'm trying to balance myself on one leg where I'm all tied up everywhere else. And you have to trust your partner completely to make sure you're safe and in this place. And if you need to get out really quickly, he's prepared for that. It takes a lot of trust to put yourself into that kind of position. But when you can find that with somebody, it is just the most beautiful thing.
Do you have any regrets? Do you wish you had discovered this earlier in your life?
I feel like I did discover it early in life. I wish I had been more open about it earlier in life. I wish I had been more verbal about what I wanted, and just gone for it and not wasted so much time like finding my people, finding my community. But I have no regrets. I would never go back. I would never not want to be in a DS relationship. My doms, they are there to help me grow to my full potential as a person. If I have one scenario I've had in the past, one of the best doms I've ever met, just so concerned with my well-being in every way, shape, and form. And I tell him I want to work on, my fitness, my physique, my body. I want to get into better habits and stuff like this. And so he'll be the one to set that up for me. And he'll tell me, you're going to go to the gym this day, this day, this day. This is what you're going to do. Here's your diet plan. And I give him that power. And now I have to check in with him. Okay, is it okay if I eat this? Is it okay if I eat that? Is it okay if, I have a rest day or whatever it may be? I get all of my direction from him on that, which for me is awesome because I don't have maybe the willpower to do that on my own. That sounds like a physical trainer
or a diet coach.
Yeah. And
and those relationships can be very dominant and dom sub.
Yeah. He had camera on me 24/7, so he's always watching me. So I can't sneak food. I can't, do something I wasn't supposed to do. I can't masturbate without permission and things like that. And I give him control over those things. I give him, my orgasms belong to him. If he doesn't want me to orgasm for a week, then I don't. If I break the rule, there's a repercussion for that.
And you enjoy that.
And I enjoy that. Yeah. It's, I I like him having control. It's both calming and peaceful for me. And it helps me too. He points me in the right direction.
It's almost like an older, like, women have advanced a lot in terms of their position in society, but it's almost like you're turning the clocks back 50 years.
I get that. It does sound like that. And that is a whole kink on its own, like the 1950s housewife thing. I like that too. It's very natural for me to want to be nurturing and take care of somebody in that way. I love to like clean the house, and I love to cook, and all those things that make his life easier. I like that.
It's more like the classic male-female dynamic.
It is.
Women now have so much power, or they've gained so much power that it almost, like the women are as dominant as the men sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it works both ways.
And the men seem to be getting less dominant.
Yeah, that's very true.
Newer generations do. Yeah,
that's so true. And it's not for everybody. Not everybody feels that way. And I would definitely still consider myself a feminist, because I don't think by any means that every woman should have to be this way. No, everybody should be able to be whatever way they want to be.
Plenty of women are great doms.
Absolutely,
and
they
men
are.
Love to be subs.
Absolutely. And it's whatever puts you in your happy place, that's where you should be. Being a submissive gives me the freedom to let go of anxiety, let go of judgment, let go of responsibility in a lot of ways, and just find a calm place. For a lot of doms, I think they feel exactly the opposite. Like being in control of all those things makes them feel calm. That's just how we're wired. And
you enjoy your sex life a lot more.
I just love it. Yeah. Yeah, I've had just some of the most wild experiences.
And that helps your life outside of the bedroom.
It does.
Tremendously, right?
It builds my confidence. I finally get to like check it off my list. Like, I've always wanted to do that. And I finally get to do it. And it's just, it just feels so good. Like I would never go back to a vanilla lifestyle.
That's wonderful. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Lara, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
The most important lesson I've learned, I think, I've learned a lot of lessons, but just really being able to be strong on my own, being independent and not just giving control to anybody.
Because being a sub almost sounds like you're giving up control, but in fact, I think you are.
It's a gift.
You are taking control of your desires and what you're into.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I'm in control. If I want to stop a scene, the scene will stop. If I can no longer handle some certain protocol that we've designed in our DS dynamic, then we talk about that and we either change it or we stop it. I'm always like, I think the submissive at the end of the day is in control. And that's maybe another misconception out there about submissive people.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
All right. Lara, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. And
thank you for being so honest about all the stuff we rarely talk about.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Even though Soft White Underbelly consists of a lot of videos, it's really still a photography project to me. And if you appreciate the photography, sometimes it's difficult to enjoy it when it's scrolling down the screen, which is the only option I had in this horizontal format on YouTube. So last year we came out with the first Soft White Underbelly book, which is a collection of the best portraits from the thousands of interviews I've done. Each portrait in this book is accompanied by an interesting quote from the person's interview.
Oh my God.
There's more.
Wow. These aren't as bad as I thought. I look like a witch.
I will not be reprinting this book when it sells out. So once it's gone for good. You can order yours at softwhiteunderbelly.org. $125, $150 for a signed copy. And thank you for watching.